Recording.
Is that good?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, I think we have um, two eight. Okay. Reb Shimon Tazeri says the Egyptian beings sown. Oh, this is the new one.
2-8 is good.
All right. Reb Shimon Tazeri says the Egyptian beings sown from the outset for seed. Likewise, Reb Shimon says large-sized beans. Likewise, and Reb Elliot says large-sized beans if they begin to form pods before Rosh Hashanah. Seedless onions and Egyptian beans from which water had been withheld for 30 days before Rosh Hashanah, I tithe according to the past year, and are permitted to the seventh year. But in the not, they are forbidden in the seventh year, and are tithe in accordance with the next year, and also those in the rain-forded field. Uh, from which water had been withheld for 2 spells, so says Ramea, but the Chachamim say 3. Gourds that he kept for seed, and they are hardened before Rosh Hashanah and became unfit for human food. They may be kept in the seventh year, but if not, it's forbidden to keep them in the seventh year. The trumos are forbidden in the seventh year, and one may water white soil. So Reb Shimon says, it's Reb Shimon. Eliezer ben Yaakov says he forbids this, and one may soak the rice in the seventh year. Reb Shimon says, but one may not trim. Okay.
Right. So Perek Gimel now we're now switching to the end of the Shemitah year when
Okay.
when you want to start preparing for the following year when you're allowed to do your when you're allowed to start working the field again. And there
Okay.
are things that you can do in preparation for the next year. So the first thing that we're talking about is we're going to be stacking manure, right? Piling up manure and getting it ready so that like on Tzom Gedalia, we're already out there
Right. Right.
putting the things out so we can
Yeah.
get going. Okay. Um, just a second. I just had to click something there. Okay. So So at what point are you allowed to start taking manure out to the field and it doesn't and people aren't suspecting you of fertilizing your field for the current year? Misha Yifsaku of Avoda. It's from the time when people who do the work have stopped. Excuse me, Kitty.
I'm back with your face. You're breaking your face to the cat. Okay, this
That's
guy
what
cannot leave me alone. Okay,
cats
here you
do.
go. I have to lock the door because he opens it with a lock.
Uh,
Okay, all right. So when they
so
stop doing
basically,
their work,
when people have stopped doing, so in other words, let's say people who are not observing Shemitah, when they stop doing it, and that's so there's an alternative reading of the Mishnah that says Ovrei Aveira instead of Ovdei Avoda. People who have been working the fields at what point do they when they stop working the field because there's no more benefits to it at that point, then you can actually start taking stuff out because then people aren't going to think it's not a normal time to be bringing out manure and therefore it must be for the next year. So that says Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Misha Yivash Hamatok. It's from when the sweet dries up. Now, okay, there are lots of ways of interpreting Rabbi Yehuda and there's a lot of discussion about what it means. Does it mean when a certain kind of plant starts getting dry, or is it when the soil when the topsoil starts drying up from the summer?
uh-huh.
And at any rate, I mean, Rabbi Yossi Omer Misha Yikshor, from when it turns from when the soil in the land starts to turn into knots. And all of this discussion, one of the commentators sums up by saying that really there's not much difference between all of these positions. It's all the same kind of time zone anyway. Mishnah base ad kama mezablin. So how much are you allowed to put out in the field? Okay, ad shalosh ashbatos lebase sa'a. So you have to put out up to 3 piles per beit sa'a. Beit sa'a is an area in which it's 50 amas by 50 amas. Okay, so and they've got to be in big piles. Shall eser mashpelos. Of each pile must be 10 buckets, 10 buckets full, to show that it's a big pile. Because if you were actually fertilizing your field, you'd be spreading it out. You wouldn't be making big piles.
Right.
It's important that it's visible that the piles are big and therefore it's clearly in preparation as opposed to the actual work. Okay. mashpelos shel lesech, and each bucket is a lesech in size, which is so a lesech is 15 sa'ah, okay, or a half of a core, just if
Right.
we want to keep track of all of your conversion rates. Mosifin al hamashpelos, you're allowed to add you're allowed to make bigger piles. You can make the piles as big as you want, because the bigger it is, the more obvious it is that you're not doing the work now. Okay, but but you cannot add more piles, because when you're adding more piles, then you're also adding more area that you're covering, and
That's
then
right.
like you're actually fertilizing the field. Rabbi Shimon Omer, Avala Ashpatos, he says, nah, if you're making piles, then it's still obvious that it's not that you're not trying to fertilize the field this year. You're just, but the halacha does not follow Rabbi Shimon. You're still restricted to a maximum of 3 piles in each field, in each beit sa'ah. Okay, Mishnah Gimel. Ose Adam es sadeu shalosh ashpatos lebeis sa'ah. As we just said in the previous Mishnah, you can put 3 piles in each beit sa'ah. Yaser mikan machziv. If he wants to put more, machziv, says Rabbi Shimon. So let's see. The word machziv means that he must put the piles in a chatzuva, which
He
is
says
like
try
in a triangle.
triangles.
Right. So it's
Right.
like a triangle, not in a straight line. Um, and let's say that's not okay. So Sa'am Mishnah over here is the Rabbi Shimon of the previous Mishnah. Now remember, in the previous Mishnah, we just said that Rabbi Shimon says you're allowed to add more piles. So we're seeing his opinion of how you add more piles, not in a straight line. You've got to make them in a triangle, which he believes makes it more clear that you're not fertilizing your field now. But Chachamim Osrim, so you cannot add more piles, as we just said in the previous Mishnah. But if you do want to add, what you have to do is either dig a pit and put the manure in the pit so people can see that this is not for the field, or else make a platform. Make a platform that's 3 tvachim high, and then again people can see that you're putting stuff on a platform, and it's not fertilizing the field. Okay. Ose Adam es zivlo otzar. A person is allowed to gather all of his all of the manure into a big pile, even if there's more than the shear of 3 ashpatos. Rabbi Meir Oser ad sheyamik shlosha or ad sheyagbir shlosha says you have to. So Rabbi Meir is the minority opinion who says that in any event you have to raise it or lower it to make it clear it's not on the same level as the field. I just lost my place there. Davar muat. If he just had a small amount of zebul, not enough to mosif alav holech, so he's allowed to put it in place, and so he doesn't have enough to make a big pile yet. So what he's allowed to do is he can take out the little bit that he has, and afterwards is allowed to come out and add bit by bit, because his cattle can only poop so much in the next field, and he has to go and gather it and add it up gradually. That is okay, as if he's continually adding to it. Again, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah oser ad sheyamik shlosha ad sheyagbir shlosha. He says in such a case you would also have to do this trick of raising it or lowering it, or ad sheyitain al hasela, or an alternative arrangement is he can just put it on some bedrock, a place where obviously he's not plowing or fertilizing anything. So that fulfills the same function as raising it or lowering it. Okay. Hazara.
Okay. We have Caleb.
Kilayim.
I did it again. Oh man. Okay. Garment vendors may sell in the usual fashion, provided they do not react to the sun or to the rain in the rain. But the scrupulous suspend them over a staff behind them. Tailors may sow in the usual fashion, provided they do not react to the sun and the sun, or to the rain and the rain, but the scrupulous sow on the ground. Birsin, Bardisin, and Adalmaktik yon are felt shoes which may not be worn until they have been examined. And Yossi says those which come from the coast and from overseas need not be examined, since the presumption is that they are made of hemp. Wool-lined shoes do not combine under the do not come from under the prohibition of colliding. Okay, let's put the note here.
My.
Okay, and okay, to mine. Vav for base. If one rents a field from a non-Jew, he must give tithe and give it to him. If Rabbi Yehuda says also one who leases from a non-Jew, the field or of his father's must tithe and give it to him. A priest or a Levite who leases from an Israelite, just as they share the chulin, they share the truma. And Rabbi Eliezer says the maestros also belong to them, for they come on that condition. And an Israelite flees from a priest or from a Levite, the maestros belongs to the landowner. Mishna says that if a provincial based from a Yerushalayim, Yerushalmi, the maestros belongs to the Yerushalmi, and the sages say the provincial can go up and eat it in Yerushalayim. Okay. Next. Okay. And Zavim. What is Zavim?
Okay. No, we're not into Zavim. We will start Zavim later, yes.
You want me to wait then?
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Machshirin. Okay. Let's finish Machshirin.
I have Razim in front of me, so I'll do.
Okay. You want to do Zavim? No problem. You can do Aleph.
Regarding someone who had one Zav admission, Ben Shammai says he is like a woman who observes a day free of her uterine discharges, corresponding to the day on which he experienced a uterine discharge. But Beis Hillel says he is like someone who had a seminal admission. If he had one Zav admission, and on the second day he stopped, and on the third day he had two admissions, and on one admission that is lengthy as two, Beis Shammai says he is a full Zav. But Beis Hillel says he conveys two couches and seats, and requires immersion in a spring, but he exempt from an offering. Elazar ben Yehuda says, Beit Shammai agreed in this case that he is not a full Zav, and regarding what they do, they disagree. Regarding one who has two Zav admissions or one admission as lengthy as two, and on the second day he stopped, and on the third he had one, and on each case, Beit Shammai says he is a full Zav, but Hillel says he conveys tumah to couches and seats and requires immersion in a spring, but he is exempt from an offering. Okay.
Now let's go back to the end of Machshirin.
Zion. The following do not convey tumah, nor do they affect hekship, sweat, pus, and excrement, and the blood that emerges with them, and the blue fluids of a child born in the 8th month. Rabbi Yossi says, except for his blood and someone who drinks the water of Tiberias, even though the excretion that emerges is low, blood of slaughter of a domesticated animal, of a non-domesticated animal, of a fowl that are non-kosher, and blood of bloodletting for therapeutic purposes, but Elazar considers these to be tamei. Right? Shimon ben Elazar says milk as a male is tahor. The milk of a woman who will cause susceptibility to tumor, whether its emergence is one satisfaction or not to one satisfaction, but the milk of an animal will only cause susceptibility to tumor if its emergence is one satisfaction. Rabbi Kiva said the matter can be proven through a halachoma. If milk of a woman which is intended only for her children will cause susceptibility to tumor, whether its emergence was to one satisfaction or was not to one satisfaction, then animal milk, which is intended for both children and adults, is not logical that it should cause susceptibility to tumor, regardless of whether the emergence was for one satisfaction or was not to one satisfaction. But the Chachamim say to him, not so. If the milk of a woman that did not emerge or one satisfaction generates susceptibility to tumor, it is because the blood of her wound causes susceptibility to tumor. With the milk of an animal that did not emerge to one satisfaction, likewise generates susceptibility to tumor when the blood of a wound does not cause susceptibility to tumor. Where Kiva said to them, I am more stringent regarding milk than I am regarding blood, for if one expresses milk for therapeutic purposes, the milk will cause susceptibility to tumor. But if one lets blood for therapeutic reasons, the blood will not cause susceptibility to tumor. The sages say to Rebbe Kiva, the law concerning baskets of olives and grapes will serve as a proof. For if liquids come from ooze from one of the baskets to the owner's satisfaction, they will cause susceptibility to tumor. But if the liquids ooze not to his satisfaction, they will not cause susceptibility to tumor. He said to them, not so. If you say thus concerning baskets of olives and grapes, it is because the beginning of the fruits were a food, and the end liquid that oozes is a beverage. Will you say the same concerning milk? the beginning and the end of which was a beverage. Until this point was a response. Reb Shimon said, from here on we would answer in his presence as follows: when rainwater will serve as a proof, since the beginning and in the end it is a beverage, and yet it does not cause susceptibility to tumah unless it emerges to one's satisfaction. He said to us, not so. If you say it's concerning rainwater, it is because the majority of rainwater is not for the benefit of people, but for the benefit of land and trees, but the majority of milk is for the benefit of people. 100 a lot.
Sharon. Oh, Caleb.
Okay. Gimel. What was the difference between Markev and Moshav? With regard to Markev, touching it is different than carrying it. With regard to Moshav, touching it is no different than carrying it. A paddle sack of a ducky that one sits upon is sahor, and if one changes the number of holes or open the holes onto the other, it is tummy. The beer, the pillow, and the mattress of a corpse, these can become tummy with mitzvah, a tumah, and a bridal chair, a birthing stool of a woman in childbirth, and a laundry seat upon which he stacks the clothing. Rabbi Yossi says they are not subject to the tumah of Moshav. A fishing net is tummy on account of the bottom. Nets, traps, and birds snare. A wooden snare and a fisherman's traps are tummy. A fish trap, a bird trap, bird cage. Okay, a tahor. Okay.
Right.
Oh,
okay.
We finished Elam also. We got okay.
That was good. Okay, I'm gonna have to stop here. I've got my meeting now.
Okay, I'm gonna start.
Okay.
The last. What do you think will be tomorrow?
Later. Huh?
What do you think tomorrow?
Tomorrow, I actually haven't worked out what. Let me just